Thanks for joining me on Fascinating Frontiers, episode 127, coming to you on July 10th, 2026. Here's what's happening in space and science today. A Chinese rocket just became only the second booster ever recovered after an orbital launch, landing on a barge after sending its payload skyward. The maiden flight of China's Long March 10B lifted off at 04:15 UTC on July 10 from Hainan. Its Caroloc's first stage landed successfully on a downrange barge. The Methaloc's second stage placed an unidentified payload into orbit. This achievement places China alongside only one other nation with demonstrated orbital stage reuse capability. Additional recovery attempts are planned for upcoming flights. Now, shifting focus from reusable hardware on Earth to the infrared view of a distant galaxy collision. The James Webb Space Telescope will mark 4 years of science operations on July 12. Its infrared vision pierced thick dust lanes to expose the starry center of galaxy Centaurus A in greater detail than previous observations. The image highlights structures shaped by a past cosmic collision. Scientists will continue using the telescope to map similar dust-obscured regions across nearby galaxies. Next data releases are expected to include additional early universe targets observed during the same cycle. From galactic collisions to the faint particles left by stellar deaths across cosmic time. Researchers report the first possible signals of neutrinos produced by supernova explosions over billions of years. These ghost particles travel vast distances and interact so weakly that only rare underground detectors can register them. The signals appear as a diffuse background rather than individual events. Confirmation would link current observations directly to the cumulative history of stellar deaths. Follow-up analyses of detector data are already underway. A single supernova can release roughly 10 to the power of 58 neutrinos in a burst lasting seconds, yet these particles slip through entire planets without leaving a trace. Imagine riding alongside one of them as it exits the collapsing core. In less than a second, it crosses the star's outer layers, then spends thousands of years crossing the galaxy at nearly the speed of light, while ordinary light and matter lag behind. Detectors buried kilometers underground register perhaps one interaction per day from the steady rain of neutrinos that have been arriving from ancient explosions across cosmic time. That background flux carries information about the total number of core collapse events over billions of years, a census no telescope using light can match. The remaining puzzle is whether the energy spectrum of these ghost particles will finally reveal how often the most massive stars exploded in the early universe, or whether some other, still unseen process is also feeding the signal. Flight controllers at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory confirmed New Horizons resumed operations on June 23 after nearly a year in sleep mode. The spacecraft sits roughly 5.9 billion miles from Earth, where signals take 8 hours and 52 minutes to travel. Instruments will soon downlink heliospheric plasma data and perform health checks. The Venetia Burney Student Dust Counter continues collecting Kuiper Belt particle counts. Software upgrades for distant sun operations are being tested through the end of the year. New Horizons has returned to active duty after 321 days of hibernation, its instruments now streaming fresh measurements from the outer heliosphere. The spacecraft's plasma sensors and dust counter continue recording conditions far beyond the planets, where solar-wind interactions weaken and interstellar material begins to dominate. Mission teams will next downlink ultraviolet spectrograph observations of hydrogen gas distribution. With power levels declining and signal travel times stretching past 9 hours, every downlink becomes a carefully planned window into a region visited by only 2 other spacecraft. What patterns will the dust detector reveal once the full dataset reaches Earth? From the edge of the solar system to the next flagship telescope heading outward. NASA selected SpaceX's Falcon Heavy to carry the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope to orbit this August. The telescope will survey wide areas of the sky for exoplanets and dark energy signatures. The mission represents one of NASA's next flagship astrophysics projects after Webb. Ground teams are completing final integration and testing at the launch site. Launch vehicle certification reviews remain the next major milestone, from upcoming astrophysics missions to the people who will live aboard the station. NASA astronaut Anil Menon will launch aboard Soyuz MS-29 on July 14 with cosmonauts Pyotr Dubrov and Anna Kikina. The 8-month mission will join the Expedition 74 crew aboard the International Space Station. Menon's assignment continues NASA's participation in long-duration station research. Training for the crew concluded earlier this month at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center. Live coverage of the launch is scheduled through NASA channels, from crude operations to the quiet processes that build stars. Radio telescopes captured gas motions inside cold, dense prestellar cores where stars like the Sun form. Gravity holds the cores together, while internal motions reveal how material drifts before final collapse. The observations help clarify why some cores form single stars and others produce multiples. Specific velocity patterns measured across several cores now constrain formation models. Additional mapping campaigns with the same instruments are scheduled for later this year. From star formation to a Canadian lake seen from orbit, the Copernicus Sentinel-2 mission returned a striking color image of Canada's Great Bear Lake. The satellite data highlight watercolor variations and surrounding terrain features. Such observations support ongoing studies of northern lake systems and seasonal ice cover. The image forms part of ESA's regular Earth from Space series. Additional passes over the same region are planned throughout the summer. From Earth imagery to a pioneer who helped open space to more people, aviation pioneer Wally Funk, who became the oldest woman to fly in space, has passed away. She flew aboard a Blue Origin suborbital flight in 2021 at age 82. Funk's career included work as one of the Mercury 13 women tested for astronaut fitness in the 1960s. Her flight demonstrated expanded opportunities for private citizens in space. Memorial statements from the commercial spaceflight community are expected in coming days. From personal legacies to this week's evening sky, the bright pattern of Upper Scorpius appears prominently in the southern sky just after nightfall. Telescopic observers can target star clusters and nebulae within the constellation. In the west, Regulus is departing from Venus. The Big Dipper remains visible to the lower left of Polaris for northern viewers. Weekly sky updates will continue through July 19. From naked eye viewing to radar measurements of ground movement, radar measurements from the NISA satellite recorded significant ground shifts in La Guaira and surrounding areas after June 2026 earthquakes. The data quantifies surface movement across multiple fault segments. Such observations help refine models of regional seismic hazard. Processing of additional radar scenes is ongoing. The mission continues routine monitoring of active tectonic zones worldwide. From Earth monitoring to sounding rocket studies of the Sun-Earth connection. Researchers are launching sounding rockets from Alaska to examine solar flares, auroras, and related phenomena. The state's position partly inside the Arctic Circle provides unique access to high-latitude space weather effects. Data will feed into models of the Sun-Earth system. Multiple flights are scheduled through the remainder of the season. Results will complement measurements from orbiting observatories. From near-Earth space weather to broader launch infrastructure plans. An office within the U.S. Department of the Interior issued a request for information on offshore orbital launch options. The effort aims to reduce pressure on existing coastal spaceports. Concepts under consideration include mobile platforms and fixed marine structures. Responses will inform future regulatory and infrastructure planning. The comment period remains open for industry input. From U.S. planning to European spaceport growth, Sweden is coordinating with Italy, France, and Germany, plus European aerospace firms on upgrades at Spaceport East Range. The project targets growth in commercial launches and new technology demonstrations. Expanded facilities will support both suborbital and orbital missions. Timeline milestones include infrastructure completion within the next several years. Additional partner announcements are anticipated, from launch site development to educational views of eclipses elsewhere. New NASA animations compare solar eclipses across the solar system, including events on Jupiter and Saturn. The sequences illustrate how different moon sizes and orbital distances produce varied eclipse types. One video addresses the eventual end of total solar eclipses visible from Earth. The resources are intended for educational use. Additional planetary eclipse visualizations are in development. Next time, keep an eye on the final integration steps for the Roman Space Telescope ahead of its August launch. That's Fascinating Frontiers for today. If you enjoyed this, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really helps new listeners find the show. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for exploring with me, and I'll see you next time. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nera Network. Links in the show notes. And before you go, this show is part of the Nera Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. Models and Agents, your daily briefing on AI models and agents. Find every show free at neranetwork.com. New to the network? neranetwork.com/start-here picks the right daily briefing for you in about 2 minutes. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.
Drifting softly